Christina Bailey, welcome to Tongue Tied Ride and Tie Interviews. I'm so glad you agreed to do this with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So you came to my attention first. Your friend CoDee Wesley told me about you, and I didn't make the connection that you were at Big South Fork. And then later, you made this just wonderful post on Facebook, and I said, "Boy, I've got to talk with her." And then later, somebody was telling CoDee about it. She said, "Well, I already told you about her." And I said, "Oh yeah, that's right." So tell me first how you learned about ride and tie and Equathon.
It was completely by accident. My husband was out of town and I was scrolling Facebook. I had just told him that I really want to find something that I can do. I actually ride mules, not horses. And I really wanted to do something with my mules that dedicated my time, was an event that I could go to. It was scheduled and on the calendar, but I didn't have to go to if I couldn't make it. Our lives are super busy. We're both self-employed business owners, and we can't always get to where we want to be, but yet at the same time, we're pretty flexible and can get to a lot of places. Um, but it couldn't be a hard fast, you have to do these certain things. I literally had just said that to him in a text message, and then I was scrolling Facebook. He said, "Oh, I have no fear, you'll find it." I'm like, "Ha,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. I don't know anything like this. And I've heard of endurance riding, of course, and Judge Trail, and they didn't, quite honestly, they didn't really interest me, not what I was looking to do. And I was scrolling Facebook, and one of my friends posted that she was thankful to have friends that just pick up the phone and ask her to go ride 12 miles in 2 hours because they had a spare horse that they needed to ride. And and I was like, well, what did she do? What is this thing she did? And so I private messaged her, and I just asked, and here she went to do a small endurance ride. But she just happened to mention that they had the ride and tie and Equathon there. And I was like, I had never heard of this word before. I had no idea what an Equathon was. It sounds a little strange, quite honestly. And ride and tie, I had no idea what that was. And she's like, they're all over the place. And the one specifically she was talking about is 30 minutes from my house. I mean, I could have been there that day. I just didn't know that it was a thing. I didn't know it was happening. So I looked up, Google's your best friend, and I started
Yeah.
Googling, and I found that, this Equathon thing was running and riding, and then you can do it in iron version, which is by yourself. And I can't even describe to you how excited I got, and I almost felt silly about it, but I got so incredibly excited that I found something that apparently has existed for a really long time, but that I found something that I didn't know about that incorporates my fitness, my physical fitness, and my gym time into my horse and mule time. And it couldn't have been a better mesh of worlds for me. And then I found the Ride and Tie website. I started searching through. I actually found the interview you did with CoDee. I reached out to her personally. I did not know CoDee. I
Oh,
just reached out to her. She was gracious enough to answer all of my questions right away. And her enthusiasm, I specifically wanted to talk to her because she did her first one in July. And this must have been August, I think, or the end of July. So she had just done this. She had just recorded the interview with you. So it was all fresh and new. And I thought, I want to know from a first timer standpoint, what was it like? What to expect. Now, I don't want to hear it from somebody who's done a million of them. They forget the details. They forget the things that happen that you don't know. And CoDee was just so enthused about doing this that she 100% captivated me into it as well. And I was just so excited to find something that I could really set a goal for and go out and achieve. And I'm sitting here actually in one of my guest bedroom, and on my mirror, I have an accountability mirror. It's this big mirror and I wrote it right at the top, accountability mirror. And right on the top of it is Iron Equathon 9/6/2024. And I started training for that. And I had 6 weeks at that time. I think I had 6 weeks. And I had never trail run in my life at that point. I road run, but not long distances. And like 3.5 miles is about average distance. Usually, 2 miles on an average day, and then 3.5 was like my little longer of a day. And so that she had told me 8 miles is typically what you run. And well, I have only run 8 miles once in my life, and it was road running. And so I started training. I downloaded a training schedule. I put everything together and I set my focus and I started doing it. My first training trail run, I thought I was going to die. I definitely thought I was going to die. And but it just made me, hey, this is something that I need to work towards. And I just kept setting the goal. And, by the time I got there, I'm 100% hooked. I'm so excited to continue going. That's awesome.
So you find out about your training, and how did you find out about Big South Fork? Just on the Ride and Die website?
Yeah, just the Ride and Die website. I was looking for the events near me. Because CoDee was saying she was going, her next one was in Mississippi. And at that night, I was like, I'll be there. But then I realized it was 15 hours away for me.
Yeah.
I'm in Pennsylvania. I happen to have a cabin in Jamestown, Tennessee. So when it was in Jamestown, Tennessee, I thought this couldn't be more perfect. We'll go down to the cabin. We'll spend some time there. I actually stayed at the cabin. Some little details that I didn't work out ahead of time was that my cabin is actually in a different time zone than Big South Fork, and that played a whole mind game on being there on time and getting to the race on time. And then actually how far the cabin was from the race, but we worked it all out and it was great. So that's actually what drew me to Big South Fork. I felt like I had enough time to train, and it was by the cabin. So.
Yeah. I hope that there's a springtime one at East Fork Stables, very close by to Crossville. So
yes, I did see that, and I will, as long as the dates can work out, I will probably be there. I'm working on scouring the website to see what ones I can do next year.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, you're clearly hooked, and that's great. That's
yes,
super. Well,
absolutely.
so you did your trail training, and your mule is Ellie, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about Ellie.
Well, funny thing is, Ellie is not the mule that was supposed to go with me.
Oh.
Ellie's the mule that got suckered into it. My mule is Betty Boop, and Betty Boop is the one who's supposed to go with me. My little mule Betty Boop is a work in progress, and she was a little over anxious for the farrier the day she was supposed to get shoes, so he had to come back to give her shoes another day. My farrier broke his ribs and was not able to get shoes on her. So the day before, out of just this is what I've got left, was Ellie. She already had shoes on, and I walked into the field, and I talked to my animals. I walked into the field, I held the halter, and I was like, Ellie, are you ready to go with me? I need you to take care of me. And she put her head down in that halter, and out she went to the pasture with me. She is definitely my go-to mule for, doing new things. But with that being said, she doesn't ride alone. She's herd bound. She's buddy sour, and she's a lonely little girl. She likes to be with friends. And then when I got there, I found out I was riding all alone. There was no one else entered in the Equathon on Friday. So that was a fear of my own of what this was going to be like, and if I was going to be riding by myself, just because everybody's running their own races. But then to find out that I literally was the only one in the race, I'm like, well, we're going to conquer this fear today. And we did. So Ellie is 7 years old. She has zero work ethic. Usually she likes to be petted and pampered. She's not one to, I didn't even know if she would trot out. It's just, that's who I had to take. And man, she was fantastic. She did a great job.
That's because she listened to you. You told her, she knew what was going on. So yeah.
I did. I asked her to take care of me and do this, and she did. She did 100%.
So you bring up a good point. So the sport doesn't just involve going out and racing and whatnot, but there's the vet checks and all that kind of stuff. So tell me just a little bit about your experience. So if you want to, just go start to finish that day.
Yeah.
So let's hear what happened.
Well, absolutely. So I apparently also didn't do a good job on the small details of paying attention to the email that said I'm supposed to vet check in the night before.
Oh,
And so I didn't have her with me the night before to vet check in, but I also wasn't staying there. So I would have had to, stay there with her, which was I wasn't doing. So we had a writers meeting Thursday evening, and which was great for me to just hear. They did a great job at debriefing the trails and what you're looking for, the markers, and kind of lowered some of my anxiety about going out there and doing this. I'm not one, I don't like to do new things. I like to see them and then I can do them. Well, I've never seen an endurance race. I've never seen any of this. So I've never gone to one. So there was a lot of my own anxiety of what am I supposed to do? But then when I found out I was the only one running on Friday, there was definitely another level of, what? Um, so they had suggested different start times that I could take, and there was a group that was going to start a little later, and suggested I could start with them. But one of the riders said, we're doing the ride and tie, and I was doing the Equathon, and she said, when we get off and tie our horses, your horse might not want to continue going. And she's like, it's something to think about. And well, I wouldn't have thought of that if because I'm not experienced in any of this.
right.
So I said, well, that's a good point. So I chose to ride out by myself, 100%. I didn't pass. Well, I guess I tacked up. I vetted her in. She was fantastic at the vet in. Um, I just walked up and said, I don't know what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
they were gracious.
Yeah.
They told me everything I needed to know. And that was probably one of the biggest things, like for someone who doesn't know what they're doing, just say, I don't know. And there's somebody that's going to walk you through it and, tell you exactly what to do and why they're doing it, which was also really cool. So on the vet check, they just took her pulse, felt her all over, looked her over, had me trot out in hand and trot her back, and she did a great job with all of that. And then, there's hindsight. A lot of times it's 2020. My little mule Betty Boop would not have let a vet come close to her. And that's not, I knew I had to vet in, but I just never, because I've never seen it, I never processed the process. If your animal is afraid of vets, maybe that's something you want to work on before you get there.
Yeah.
Because they're going to put a stethoscope on them. And I'm pretty sure my little mule would have kicked the vet. So Ellie's more like, pet me more, please. So we did the vet in and had my vet card, and then I went and got tacked up and was ready for my ride time. And met at the start line when it was time for me to ride out. And they just let me know, okay, go. And I started riding out, followed my ribbons, and at first it was a lot of, all right, girl, we got this, we got this, we got this. And then after a little while, I was like, we got this. Like first it was convincing myself we're good. And then after a while, I'm like, oh, we got this. So I don't think I passed anybody. I did a short loop. I did, again, not knowing what to expect, not let's just the first time, let's just make it achievable. So my loop was 9 miles of riding. And I don't think I passed one single person while I was out there. So it was just me and her. And then I came back and I untacked her, took her back over to the vet check. So I was doing this by myself with no partner. So I was the runner as well. My husband was with me, but although he helps me, or he was there to help me, he's not much of a mule horse person. So I wanted to do it myself. So there may have been times involved. I wasn't there for the time. I was just there to do it and to finish. So I took her over to the vet check. Within 10 minutes, she had already pulsed down, and I didn't even know what pulsing down really meant, but I figured that out by them helping me as
Right.
well.
Yep.
And she was good to go. I went back, put her in a pen, gave her what hay, water, and I actually changed and everything. And I went out and ran. At the Big South Fork, the runner's loop for the Equathon was a separate loop where there were no horses on the trail. And it was a new hiking loop that they have. So it was a 6.5 mile loop. It was beautiful. It was just a beautiful loop. And then I also realized that the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania that I have been training on was a whole lot harder than what I was running.
Well, that's
So
good.
yeah, train harder, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't realize how hard I was training compared to what I was running. So my run felt really good. I made pretty good time in my own eyes. For myself, I made good time. And again, I didn't pass anybody. The Big South Fork run, you have to climb some ladders and everything. That was kind of cool. Um, I was about a half mile. This was probably the excitement of my trip. I was about a half mile from camp. I had messaged my husband that I was, a mile away so he could come over to the finish line. And I saw, I was sweaty and hot, and I actually forgot my contacts in Pennsylvania. So I had to wear glasses for my run, and running in glasses is not fun, and they're all foggy. And I see this black poodle coming out of the woods.
Oh,
And there's hikers and everybody around. So I'm just thinking somebody's hiking with a poodle, although I hadn't seen anybody at all yet. And then when I looked a little closer and realized that's a bear, that is a freaking bear coming out of the woods, and it's in my path. And so I just stopped. I thought we're just gonna wait and see what Miss Bear chooses to do. And she crossed over my path and just started heading down into the grass area. So there's all woods on this side where the bear came out of, and then my path was running along. I was no longer in the woods. It was more like a service road that I was on at that point. And then there was all grass over a meadow over on the other side. So she just walked across and thought, that's fine. I'll just let her go and I'll wait a little bit. I'm not worried about time. We're gonna let her go. And then just a couple seconds later, here comes Baby Bear. And Baby Bear came out of the woods. Baby Bear stopped in the middle of the lane, looked at me, and ran back into the woods. So now I have Baby Bear in the woods, Mama Bear over in the grass.
Wow.
My path through them.
Yeah.
I'm not running. If there's one thing I know, it's don't
Right.
So I just stayed there, and I honestly thought, I have no idea what to do right now because I can't run around either way. And there's very little cell reception where I was. And my first thought was, I just have to turn around and run back. I don't know what, because I'm not going through them. And I decided to call my husband. What my husband was going to do for me, I had no idea. But that was my first inclination.
Sure.
I called him. He had a chance to say hello. And just then, a vehicle pulled up. Now, mind you, I have not seen any soul the entire 9 miles and 6 miles, not one person. And this vehicle pulls up with two older ladies in it. And I only had time to say to my husband, I'm okay. I gotta go. And I flagged down. I didn't even tell him what was going on.
Yeah.
And I flagged down this vehicle, and I was like, ma'am, there's Bear up there, and then there's Mom and Baby Bear over there. Can you please give me a ride?
Yeah.
So they gave me a ride about 200 yards maybe through where the bear was. And then they said, we can take you the rest of the way. I'm like, no. I have to finish my race.
Right.
I have to run it back.
Yep.
So there was a 200-yard spot that I did not run.
I don't think anybody is gonna complain about that.
Yeah, if you look at my tracks, there's because I shut the app off, there's a in my track for about 200 yards.
That's not cheating, that's just wisdom. So.
Right. I did run. I probably found a little extra encouragement the last half mile there. A little bit faster on my way home.
Right. Yeah. Good.
But I crossed the finish line, and everybody there, my husband brought my mule over when I was crossing the finish line. And it was just such a good sense of accomplishment that 6 weeks ago, I could have never ran even the 6.5. It was only 6.5 miles instead of 8. And I could have not have ran the 6.5 miles. It's just not something I'd done. I'd never trotted a horse. I had never trotted anything for 9 miles, let alone, I mean, I've ridden my 9 miles for sure, but trail riding, walking, I have never trotted anything that long. So it was just a big sense of accomplishment. Certainly we didn't finish any 50 or 100-mile endurance ride, but this was a totally different sense of accomplishment for me.
Well, and it is a huge accomplishment. And I just love it that the endurance community thinks, and correctly so, really, that the ride and tie side is so tough, because most of them don't want to be running at all. And they get it, and it's of course doing a 50 100-mile endurance race is quite an accomplishment, and we've even have some 100-mile riding tires, and that's really an accomplishment. But 9 6.5 is a huge accomplishment for anybody, and so I'm so proud of you, and it's just so neat to hear the way you're willing to take all these. Some of them, I guess, weren't completely planned, but I'm going to be by myself, and I'm going to do these things I haven't done before, but I'm still going to get. That's
Right.
just really really neat. Well, you mentioned your husband a little bit. You were wonderfully complimentary of him on the Facebook post. So tell us a little bit more about Troy and your crew chief and how he helped out.
So he was there. Well, one, he was out of town when I decided to do this, and I just messaged him and I said, "Hey, I found it, and I'm going to go to Tennessee in September and run this race." And I'm sure there's plenty of husbands out there with crazy horse wives that are like, "Okay, whatever you say."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay, well, I want to come along." And I was like, "Okay, you don't have to, but I mean, I would love to for you to if you want to." So he came along, and he set up my fence for me, and he made sure she was contained. One thing that is Ellie's MO, I guess, is how you should say it, is she's an escape artist. There's not one thing I've ever put her in that she's actually stayed. So I was quite worried about that with her, especially if I was doing it solo. That if I was riding and running, there's nobody to watch her while I was running.
Right.
So he was there to watch her and just make sure she did a good she did a good job. And that's why he brought her to the finish line, because honestly, we weren't quite sure if she'd stay in there.
Right.
So he brought her over to the finish line, and he's just always super encouraging about anything that I choose to do or set out to do, and just was there to take my picture and there to encourage you on and stuff. But we both try to encourage each other with everything that we try to do.
Well, that's great, and that's just part and parcel of so much. The part of my experience too is that the Ride and Tie Equathon family is a family, the community is a family, but it also is a family event. My daughter was my first partner. My brother-in-law is one of my current partners. My wife is my crew chief and horse wrangler and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's wonderful when it becomes a family event.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think I watched your video
Yeah.
with your daughter.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
definitely one of the videos that it was your video and CoDee's video. And I'm like, I have to do this. It's
Yeah.
just something
Yeah.
you have to do.
We feel so fortunate they chose us to be a part of that video. That was pretty cool. It's pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned already some future plans, but tell me a little more. You're going to do some more. You want to keep doing Equathon? Do you think you ever want to switch over to and try Ride and Tie, or kind of what are you thinking about future?
Well, I do have thoughts about it. One, I never want to do just endurance. That is not where I want to be. Because the part of this that excites me so much is my own physical fitness level. And yes, you have to be physically fit to ride that long, but it's a different level of fitness required to trail run, because it's freaking hard. So I do have thoughts. Unfortunately, we're headed into winter, and most of the next rides are in South Carolina. While I can make it, it's just further for me. So I had planned on probably not doing anything until next year. And then I quickly found that I wasn't doing as much as I should at home. I wasn't running as much. I had no next plans.
Yeah.
My brain already was letting myself go. Now to say I go to the gym 3 days a week, I still was doing things, but I wasn't doing all of the things. And that's not where I wanted to be. So I am headed to Fort Valley, Virginia.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll see you there.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm doing the 15-5, and on Saturday. And I should go back and say, my husband asked me one thing. He said, "So what did you learn in all of this?" And I was like, "Run on Fridays because nobody shows up and you're automatically a winner." That was my takeaway. It couldn't have been more perfect for me to be alone. What I should go back and say on that is I had several friends who were supposed to go with me and all had to bail at the last minute for one reason or another. And there was actually somebody from the Ride and Tie who said they were running on Friday, and that's why I chose Friday, so that I knew I'd have somebody to go with.
Right.
And they changed their date as well. And I ended up completely by myself, but it couldn't have been better. So anyway, I will be at Fort Valley. And I encouraged two of my friends to go along with me that have never ran or done endurance of any type. So they both we're going to need training schedules. So I shot them over a quick training schedule. So they're working on getting their par. And all having said that too, I mean, you can walk. You can do whatever it is in your capabilities of doing. And they might walk some of it, and that's perfectly okay. They're just getting out there and doing.
Absolutely. Yep.
So we will be there for that one, and then I'm probably gonna not do anything until 25 because I didn't see anything that was closer for now. But I decided to sign up for trail running races. So I have a trail running half marathon in November.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I think what is my future of ride and tie? An Equathon is the harder distances. I can see myself wanting to hit the higher distances for sure. And there's a level of this, though, I'm not sure about the ride and tie part, because there's a level of this that it's a self-conquering thing. And I love to do it solo.
Okay.
And the ride and tie, you're with a partner and you're, a 3-person team. And maybe I can even advocate to say, can we do it more like the borough races? And I run for a certain mile, and then I get down or I hop on and ride with Amy, and then I run that hill.
Yeah. There you go. Actually, mentioning borough races does remind me, the East Fork one, she always also has a borough race. So if you want to do a 2-day thing, maybe you could do the Ellie could do the borough race one day and do the Equathon the next or something. Who knows? But anyway, good.
So I am definitely interested in doing longer distances. I've already started reaching out to all kinds of friends and saying, you want to be a ride and tie partner?
Yeah, there you go.
To see what I come up with. But I really like the self accomplishment part of it.
Yep. Great. And there is that great bond you have with your animal too. And that's so nice and so wonderful. So sure. Yeah. So you have been already just so enthusiastic and encouraging, but if somebody was thinking about doing Equathon or ride and tie, how would you encourage them, or how would you try to inspire them to give it a shot?
Just do it. Don't worry about where you're at or where you should, or where you think you should be. Just do it. One of the reasons I even did sign up is my assistant, she signs herself up for marathons and half marathons and triathlons all the time. And she just recently signed herself up for a triathlon. And I think she's crazy. She doesn't even swim very well. And she was like, I'm signing up for this triathlon. So honestly, I just took after her, where she signs up and then she figures out a plan. And if you don't have an end goal, you don't create a pathway to get there, So I just signed up. I thought, what the heck? Let's just do it. And then I created a path to get there. But then once it was kind of like just CoDee's interview as well, is like, once you've done it, you realize how much you shouldn't have to worry about it, how gracious everyone is, how nice everyone is, how helpful everyone is, especially if you just let them know, it's my first time. I've never been here. I don't know what I'm doing. Now, if you don't tell people that and you just do things all wrong, they might be looking at you a little funny, right. But they're like, I don't know. One thing that really stood out to me when I was at the Equathon at Big South Fork, there was a shorter loop. You could do a 4-mile ride and tie the second day. And I almost said I would be somebody's partner, but I didn't. But there was an older lady there, and she said, I'll be somebody's partner if you don't mind a gimp. I just walk. And it was just, and somebody signed up to be her partner. I thought that is just a great example of, you can be in any level of fitness, any level, and just get out there and do it. And just moving in general is better than not moving. And you get to hang out with your user.
That's right. Yeah. You started your Facebook post with our wonderful mantra, to finish is to win. And that's exactly right. And if it takes you, 3 hours to do a 4-mile ride and tie or Equathon, who cares?
Right.
Or whatever. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Good,
I did have a blast with letting everybody know at home that I won.
Yep.
And going back a couple minutes later and be like, I was the only one, but I still won.
You won the race and won the turtle award, right?
Right. That's the competition.
Yep. Oh, wow. Well, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much, Christina, for your time. And I will look forward to seeing you at Fort Valley and seeing you out there on the trail at other times as well.
That'll be awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.